Stephen J. Shaw begins the conversation highlighting how, nearly a decade ago, he first became intellectually obsessed with the sharp decline in birth rates globally. What differentiates his current perspective from earlier ones is that he now believes he understands the core reason behind this demographic collapse, a realization that simultaneously frightens and compels him. He acknowledges the gravity of the problem by reminding listeners that no nation in history has recovered from sustained low birth rates, emphasizing the unprecedented nature of the situation humanity faces. Initially, this topic was barely on anyone's radar, but Shaw credits early conversations, including his own work such as the documentary Birth Gap, for helping to ignite wider discussion. He shares that the data reveal a universal and profound trend. By the age of 30, a woman has at most a 50% chance of ever becoming a mother, a statistic that shocks many, especially young women, who had been unaware of the biological and societal constraints surrounding fertility. A cornerstone of Shaw's analysis is the concept he calls the vitality curve, an elegant bell-shaped curve representing the age distribution of people becoming parents in a society. This curve was once sharp and left skewed, with most people starting families in their early 20s. Over time, however, the curve has broadened and flattened, pushing the average age of parenthood later, often into the 30s. The flattening reflects an increasing variance in when people feel ready to start families, creating a mismatch in reproductive timing. This desynchronization, which Shaw terms reproductive synchrony, is critical because pair bonding, finding a partner who is on the same page regarding family timing, is essential for becoming a parent. The more spread out this timing becomes, the harder it is for individuals to find compatible partners within their fertility window, causing a steep drop in birth rates. Shaw suggests that this synchrony might even be an evolutionary trait seen in other pair bonding species, indicating a biological underpinning behind this social phenomenon. One of the profound drivers behind the shifting vitality curve is the impact of financial crises and ensuing societal uncertainty. Shaw cites concrete examples where economic shocks, like the 1973 oil crisis and the 2007-2008 mortgage collapse, precipitated sudden drops in first-time births. The data show that during and after these crises, people who haven't yet had children delay parenthood, whereas those already having kids typically continue to have them. Interestingly, these delays are never fully reversed once economic stability returns. Shaw explains this ratchet effect partly through cultural workplace structures, such as Japan's hierarchical employment system, where women feel compelled to wait until their senior colleagues have started families before they can do the same without risking their career. Consequently, this dynamic entrenches late parenting norms that are difficult to unseat, highlighting how deeply social expectations and economic structures influence population trends. Shaw challenges the conventional view that declining birth rates are due primarily to mothers having fewer children. Instead, his research emphasizes that the largest factor is increasing childlessness, more women never becoming mothers at all. The total maternal fertility rate, TMR, measuring the number of children per mother, has remained stable in many developed countries since the 1970s. The steep declines come from fewer women entering motherhood. This leads to the heartbreaking reality that approximately 80% of women who end their reproductive years without children did not intend to be childless. These women often experience grief akin to mourning, sometimes supported by support groups for involuntary childlessness. Shaw is keen to stress that this is a profoundly under-discussed facet, one disconnected from the volitional child-free or antinatalist narratives prevalent in popular discourse. Shaw explains why a woman turning 30 without children has only a 50% chance of ever becoming a mother. This statistic includes social and biological factors. Socially, people become more selective as they age, developing deeper criteria for partners and lifestyle preferences that reduce the probability of finding a compatible partner during the shrinking fertility window. The longer the reproductive years stretch out, the lower the vitality and the likelihood of synchronizing with a partner ready for parenthood at the same time. Biologically, fertility naturally declines with age, particularly for women, And while assisted reproductive technologies such as IVF exist, they represent only a partial mitigation rather than a cure. The delay in starting families, combined with breakups, changing relationships, and biological declines, creates a fertility paradox, where intentions and opportunities misalign over time, deeply impacting population dynamics. Social phenomena like hypergamy, increased female educational attainment, and higher career ambitions have reshaped mating markets. Shaw highlights how the educational gender gap, with more women graduating than men across many societies, alters dating dynamics, making it difficult for some women to find socioeconomically matching partners. This imbalance exacerbates the vitality curve's flattening as men and women operate on differing timelines and expectations. Moreover, the delayed timeline for partnering means younger adults may disengage from dating altogether, opting instead for solitary lifestyles centered around gaming, social media, or career pursuits. This withdrawal, Shaw suggests, is at least partially a consequence of the fertility crisis itself. The diminished pressure to settle in early disrupts social cohesion and challenges long-standing cultural marriage and family norms, creating a feedback loop of demographic decline. The conversation turns to the often polarized politics surrounding population decline. Shaw notes that concerns about birth rates are frequently dismissed or stigmatized as right-wing, conservative, or patriarchal talking points, yet the dynamics cut across political lines. On the right, family and reproduction are often championed for religious or traditional reasons, while many left-leaning environmentalists have embraced antinatalist ideas connected to climate concerns. Shaw underscores a major paradox: progressive movements promoting gender equality, career empowerment, and environmental limits can inadvertently undermine the conditions necessary for higher birth rates. He warns that ignoring these demographic realities risks allowing more pro-natalist, often conservative subcultures to inherit the future culturally and politically due to their higher fertility, a point rarely discussed openly due to ideological taboos. Economically, Shaw presents a stark picture of what ongoing birth rate declines mean for societies. A shrinking workforce undermines the capacity to fund social safety nets, such as pensions, healthcare, and public services that rely heavily on working-age tax contributions. The rising dependency ratio exacerbates economic strain and creates pressures on quality of life, particularly for those lower in income brackets who rely most on these systems. While technologies like AI and robotics may boost productivity, Shaw cautions that the benefits of automation will likely concentrate wealth and exacerbate inequality. The companies and individuals controlling these technologies stand to gain immensely, while the broader workforce shrinks, raising difficult questions about economic stability, social cohesion, and future quality of life for most people. Shaw critically examines common proposed solutions to population decline. Immigration, often touted as a patch, cannot alone offset falling birth rates because immigrants themselves age and require support in later life. He explains that sustainable demographic health requires domestic birth rates to recover to maintain an economically balanced population structure. IVF and reproductive technologies provide real hope for individuals, but do not address the core demographic trends. Even with growing use of IVF, overall fertility rates among mothers have not increased, reflecting underlying social and biological constraints that technology cannot overcome. Adoption is even more limited as a solution. Available children for adoption are rare, and international adoption rates have plummeted due to stricter regulations and shifting demographics in less developed countries, where birth rates are also declining. One of Shaw's more hopeful themes is the idea that what is necessary to shift the vitality curve back toward younger parenthood is a reinvention of education and career trajectories. He advocates moving from traditional lifelong education pathways to models emphasizing earlier workforce entry, more flexible lifelong learning, and supportive career breaks for parenting, particularly in people's 20s. This approach requires cultural changes to normalize early family formation and create economic and social securities for young parents. Shaw cites Hungary's policy experiments as examples of positive impacts, where reducing college debt or providing housing incentives has encouraged earlier family formation, producing small but significant localized improvements in birth rates. However, he emphasizes that reversing national demographic trends will require coordinated societal shifts rather than piecemeal or token policies. Beyond economics and birth rates, Shaw stresses the human and psychological toll low fertility societies endure. He shares poignant stories from Japan about loneliness among elders living in depopulated towns where young families have vanished. The disappearance of children and younger generations erodes community vitality and a sense of future hope, a concept he terms futurehood, which becomes a crucial dimension of national well-being. These losses contribute to mental health challenges, social isolation, and a fracturing of societal bonds. Shaw warns that demographic collapse is not merely a statistic but a socio-psychological crisis that, if unmitigated, can deepen societal disintegration. The shrinking youth populations also threaten social innovation, cultural renewal, and global stability at large. Finally, Shaw is emphatic about the importance of breaking taboos and fostering honest conversations about fertility, timing, and population decline. He calls for widespread education to provide young people accurate information about their reproductive chances, fertility windows, and the consequences of delaying parenthood. He is candid about the resistance faced from academia and policymakers who fear panic or ideological backlash. However, Shaw posits that open dialogue and data transparency could empower individuals to make informed life design choices, balancing career, relationships, and family planning realistically. By shifting the public narrative from blame and ideological battles to compassionate understanding and practical solutions, Shaw sees a pathway to humanity, navigating this demographic cliff with greater resilience.